Square One DSM is an initiative of the Greater Des Moines Partnership that mentors, connects, and enhances the potential for success for entrepreneurs in Central Iowa.
We have someone doing a software startup. I'd like to introduce John Fialkov. John is with Rational Surgical Solutions. And if you wouldn't mind, maybe we'll just start out. How did you get to a startup? What's your 3-minute story of how you got here?
Okay, 3 minutes. So, yes. So I'm actually a urologist by training. I was in practice at the Iowa Clinic for 14 years. And over the course of those 14 years, I saw inefficiencies in practice, and not specific to the Iowa Clinic, just in medicine in general. And talking to my colleagues around the country, my friends, I heard the same stories over and over. And the most prominent one was physicians spending lots of time, at least their impression of it, spending lots of time with patients, and patients not really seeming to understand what was told to them in their counseling session. So that was a situation that I personally dealt with. And so I started thinking, I'm sort of one of those people that fixates on, I have a problem, I can't get it out of my head, and I keep thinking about it and thinking about it. And really over a period of years, I came up with the idea, but particularly the last couple of years, really started focusing on the solution, or at least what I believe to be the solution. And that was a software program that we call Ratify. So the way that started, how much more time do I have? No,
You're already on the product, you're doing great.
Okay, great. So it was kind of an interesting journey that led me to become an entrepreneur. I really didn't understand how the process worked as a physician. I knew that this is what I wanted to have. This is a software application that I wanted to have. And I thought if I just patented this idea, that would be something people would be interested in, and some large vendor would come along and say, oh, we're going to buy your patent from you, and we're going to develop this, and you're going to be on our development team helping guide this process. Well, I made some phone calls, and I found out that really wasn't the case. You actually had to have a prototype. So I used my own funds, my own savings, and developed a prototype with a local developer here, QCI. And we outsourced our development to that team. And I thought, well, now we've got a prototype. So I'll take the prototype. I'll call some of the big vendors and talk to them, and they'll be interested. They'll want to buy my intellectual property, and I'll be able to work with them in doing this. Well, I found out that wasn't the case. The next question they asked me was, where has this been installed? And who's using it? How many daily active users do you have for your software? I said, well, this is just a prototype. I said, well, come back to us when you've got hospitals using it, you've got practices, you've got thousands of users, then we'll talk about working with you. And so at that point, actually I was introduced to Mike, and called him, and we sat down and started working on a business plan, and I realized, boy, this is going to cost a lot more than my savings are going to sustain, so we need to raise some money, and the whole thing just started escalating. Then you start raising funds, and you got to obviously have a well-developed plan, and they start asking you about salespeople and corporate governance, and boom, the whole thing sort of grows, and that's really in a nutshell how it happened.
So, and I did get to know you pretty early in the process. I think right about the time you were looking at, okay, this is going to be bigger than I thought it was.
That's right.
How long has it been? 18 months since we started talking to you?
That's great. It was really, the company was formed in October 2014. We really started working October 2015. Yeah.
Okay,
So just about a year. Just about a year.
You got a lot done here.
Yeah, it's been very busy.
You've been through first product to market.
That's correct.
You've raised a large round of capital.
Yes.
You've hired salespeople. You have an office. You're out selling. You're a busy guy.
That's right.
You like to work a lot of hours.
I don't like to, but I know I need to.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with the product. And when I first learned of it, the reason my personal interest was my mother is 83, and she's had her share of medical problems and challenges that she's had to be treated for. My older brother's a nurse, and so sometimes if my brother couldn't be there during the procedure discussions, the pre-surgical prep or pre-procedure prep and discussion, and then after the fact, he really had no real way to know what was told to my mom, because my mom might not remember. To be honest, I might not remember. if I'm slightly weirded out about having someone, put me under and do surgery on me. So that intrigued me because he's attacking this challenge for these. I think in one piece of this, the people are going to provide the care after that. So with that, tell us a little bit about how it works and what it does.
Sure. So the program utilizes video education, which is a very powerful medium for communicating with patients. So first of all, we have a very sophisticated patient portal. I don't like to use that word because there's a patient portalitis is the new term that patients are trying to avoid. So we came up with something called the surgery care site, which is basically a portal or a site where patients can get information that's tailored to them before the procedure. And that can be viewed on any web-enabled device. So it's specifically designed for smartphones. It'll work on anything, their laptop, their iPad, their smart TV. Through that portal, they're able to view content, read written instructions, interact with the physician, and the important part is we actually measure their comprehension. So we have a quiz, which we are able to track and log on the administrative portal. So we can tell before a patient even comes in, or maybe they've had their appointment and have gone home, we can tell what they understand and where we need to focus our counseling. Now, there's also an iPad application. And the iPad application allows the patient who hasn't completed that education at home before they came in to actually view the content on the iPad in the doctor's office, sign the consent form, the actual written consent form, which then goes straight into the electronic health record, and also serves as a sort of a calendar, a way for the physician or the nurse to manage their daily schedule. So all of it's wrapped into one package. It's mobile, which I think is a key in the healthcare space. Now, after surgery, they have access to post-operative care instructions and also video of the recorded interaction between the patient and the physician. And that can be shared also with family members through the site. All this is done with utmost in security. We follow all the HIPAA, all the federal requirements for patient confidentiality and security. That way they can involve the care team and their family and friends, whoever they want to be involved in the process after surgery. And there have been many studies which have shown that patients who have strong support, who have access to instructions, particularly in the video format before and after the process, actually do better. They have better outcomes. So one study showed a 15% reduction in hospital readmissions. It's a small rural hospital in Alabama who instituted a very, very basic system, not anything as sophisticated as what we have. Also, there's lower complication rates. And the big focus initially for me was reduction of malpractice. And there have been studies, and again, we've had support from the malpractice carriers as well, that confirm that you can reduce the risk of liability by educating patients and managing their expectations.
Yeah, and again, so coming back to my story, for my brother to be able to go home off his shift, he works 12-hour days. And you come home after 12, 14-hour days, assuming it's only 12, for him to be able to go over to my mother and be able to view that information and know not just what she remembered when she was coming out of the building under, but what the doctor has instructed and what went on. And I think that you can see how that's going to be a big deal. And I mean, the litigation side is important, it really is, but at the end of the day, you really just want better outcomes.
Yeah, it's interesting because it started as a very well circumscribed project with really a small concept, which was the liability issue. Informed consent is the catchphrase that we use in healthcare. And what we found is that the patients actually loved the experience. They found that what we had created was so much better than what they were getting through the patient portals that the EHRs, the companies had created, that they started asking for more features. And so that's how it was really feedback from patients and physicians that helped the platform develop to where it is today.
So who's a target customer right now? When you're early in the process, you've got lots of people. This thing can be used for a lot of things. That's right. It's a detriment, right? There's just so many things. That's who are you guys targeting today?
So we're targeting multi-specialty medical groups. For example, the Iowa Clinic is our first customer. But other clinics like that, McFarland, for example, would be another, Physicians Clinic of Iowa. Those those groups, those physicians who really have supported this. This has been one of the few healthcare IT initiatives that I think the physicians have really embraced.
This is a good thing for them.
They see the efficiency, the improved efficiency and the improved patient satisfaction. Sort of bridging that gap between the patient and the physician that so far the health IT has actually widened rather than narrowed.
So this actually saves time for the physician and the nurse, right?
That's correct.
How does it save them time?
It saves them time by not having the physician have to sit there and go through a laundry list of complications and possible outcomes from surgery. Also, through the portal, the nurses can actually communicate more efficiently with the patients. In our office as a urologist, our nurses would work 2 to 3 hours a day overtime answering phone calls. And it was always the same questions. Why is this happening? Over and over. So with this, we actually have a robust library of post-operative educational material as well, so that rather than the nurse having to get on the phone and say the same thing over and over, which may not even be standard, it may be different depending on who they're talking to. When they call the front office saying I have a problem, or they contact us directly through secure messaging, they're getting a consistent, vetted answer to their question, and so that helps minimize the calls back to the nurse. From the physician, though, what we found is rather than sit there and go through a laundry list, and everyone's seen those commercials for the pharmaceuticals where they talk about every possible complication. I mean, that's really what happens if anyone's been to the doctor and had surgery and they have someone who's somewhat thorough. They'll get a laundry list of this can happen and that can happen, and meanwhile you're sitting there like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. This is horrendous. I don't want this procedure done to me. What we've done is the patients are educated ahead of time, so they're kind of exposed to all of this information. They have a general idea of what's going to happen. And then when they speak to the physician, it's very tailored. It's a very focused discussion, and it's actually very gratifying. It changes the burden of 100% from 100% the physician having to educate the patient to an exchange, to an actual conversation, which is really 50-50 or maybe 60-40. Where the patient is empowered to ask questions and really think deeply about what's going to happen.
I would think that for the patients let's face it, some of us go to the doctor and just say, okay, whatever you say, I'll go do it. And we don't do a lot of research. This is me. My wife will research everything to the nth degree. She'll go out and read most of the clinic site as much as she possibly can in advance. And for someone like that who really wants to know, you get to learn at your own pace and you get to actually educate yourself. So I think by the time we get to you, hopefully they're down to just a few questions left.
That's correct.
That have value add. Yeah. So you're an MD. Did you have a business background for this? Did you ever run a company?
No, but actually, medicine has become a business.
Yeah, that's true.
It's different. It's a quasi-business, but you need to know how to manage people. You need to, as a surgeon, every time you walk into the operating room, you have to have a plan. Everything has to be laid out. You have to think of all the contingencies in case things don't go as planned. And you've got to manage your time. You've got to know how to schedule things, how to triage. And I think, even though I don't have a specific business background, I think having that skill set translates into many other areas of endeavor.
So what areas did you find yourself saying, I have no idea what I'm doing here? Where did you have to say, and not just in relation to what we do, but what are those areas for you that were like, wow, I've got to learn all this stuff new?
Well, I would have to say it's developing the business plan. I mean, it really is the financial side. I mean, I could, manage my personal finances, but really, when you're talking about a startup and you're raising funds, I mean, it's got to be tight. And so that's where I really needed help. Again, Mike helped. We've got a chief financial officer, financial analyst who've helped as well. It's an ongoing discussion because that's an area I'm learning at a rapid pace, continue to learn. I think the other area would have to be sales. As a physician, I used to speak for various companies and do talks at meetings, but it's more like a teacher standing there giving a diatribe about your topic. And the thing I've really discovered is it's really a back and forth. It's really a process to sell, and it's a much different. People are totally turned off by someone just sitting there telling them, you need to do this, this is the way it happens. And so that's been something that, it's been an enormous learning process.
How many people in your company are full-time?
We have 5 full-time employees currently, not including myself.
And you've got some advisors that are fractional part-time as well?
That's correct, that's not including them, yeah. So we've got some experienced business people that have worked with startups before they're helping us. Can I mention names or? Yeah.
Totally.
So Mike mentioned Tej Devon. Tej is helping us as our COO. And then we have Sheldon Warringer of Colaris fame and success, who is helped us develop our sales team. And I got to tell you, their experience has been invaluable.
I think it's something I point out to anybody starting out, is you don't have to hire everything full-time.
Correct.
For example, like CFOs, CFO is a critical function, but when you're first starting up, you don't necessarily need a full-time CFO. You probably can't afford the one you really need, but you can go buy 4 hours a month of somebody's time, or 8 hours a month. She's already shaking her head because she's a fractional CFO.
Or the medical field.
The term is fractional CFO, the one I know, but seriously think about it. You're going to go out there and raise $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, and those of us who are investors are going to go, I'll go to your numbers. And if nothing wrong with your local bookkeeper having done it, or your local accountant done it, but they haven't done it at the level that someone raising capital is going to want to see them. And for those of you who are younger, I will tell you it's a good idea to have some gray hair or absent of hair people next to you who have track record and scar tissue, because we've seen a lot. And so it's something that I think a lot of people, the first time through, don't realize is a lot of the stuff you can buy by the hour. And you'll actually get better in your first year doing it that way than you would if you hired full-time, because you just can't afford the level of person. There's another fractional CFO I know in town that's worked in 3 continents, 7 countries. He's a partner, a very high-level partner in a very large firm. He's got so many kinds of experiences. I've yet to be able to stump the guy. I keep bringing these things. It's like, yep, I did that before. I did that in Switzerland. I did that in England. I did that in... So really think about that a lot. So one more question for you. As I'm asking this question, think about what you want to ask next. We'll turn it over for Q&A. You set me up for this. I'm going to ask it. What would you do differently now that you're a year or 2 in? Yeah. What would you really do differently?
So we were talking about this earlier, and the one thing that we've learned in this process is that the sales cycle, particularly in healthcare, is long and arduous. And so what I would do differently is hire salespeople, professional full-time salespeople, earlier in the process, even before the software was done, even before our pilot was done. We had high confidence that the project was going to be successful. But I wanted to wait. This is kind of more the surgeon in me that wanted to see the results, the data, before we started pitching it to clients. And I waited. And I think, we're just having that extra 6 months to try and close some of those contracts that we're talking to currently, I think would have been helpful.
Yeah, and you might tell, you were just telling a couple stories about the process. So you meet with somebody and they say, wow, we need this.
Yes. But that's not my decision. It needs to go to this committee. When does that committee meet? Oh, it met last week. When does it meet again? 3 months. Okay, and then, so after that committee, you guys can make a decision, right? We can move ahead. Well, no, then it has to go to that committee. Then we have to have our IT people. Oh my God, God forbid the IT people. Because it doesn't matter what the idea is, they don't work with you. So that's
one more thing on their list.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then the other issue, which has really been an eye-opener and actually a little bit disturbing, is the power that the big EHR vendors, there's a couple of big companies, Epic and Cerner in particular, that have on the lion's share of the marketplace. And we've talked to several hospital systems that say this is exactly what we're looking for. We'd love to move ahead with this, but we can't because we've just started an Epic installation. They've told us we're in a foundational phase for 2 years. I cannot, and then they're telling a CEO of a major hospital system with a dozen hospitals that they can't move forward with something that's going to decrease their costs, decrease readmissions, protect patients, the physicians from liability, because Epic has told them they can't. So that's been, these are things we're working through and finding ways around those obstacles. But that I think was really, that's been the biggest eye-opener.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the part of the sales cycle people underestimate when you're selling to large organizations is you can get a yes, an unqualified yes, but that has nothing to do with getting paid.
That's right.
It's all- it's just the word, yeah. That's all. So let's open up for questions.
So on the last topic, you were just
Yeah.
saying with Epic, and you didn't anticipate that. Could you sell your software to Epic to incorporate in, or is?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually our exit strategy, is at some point being acquired by a larger vendor
Gotcha.
that would make this a standard feature, rather than a bolt-on product for their EHR. That's a freestanding product, and it will integrate. We were able to do that with Allscripts at the Iowa Clinic. But Allscripts is, it's outpatient, and it's a smaller player, and it's losing market share. So we really want to go for the whales. But yeah, that'll take time, and we'll need installations. We'll need licensed users to get their attention. We have spoken to them early, and they're very they're difficult to work with. Yeah.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Levi?
You talked about content earlier being provided to the patients and whatnot. Where's that content coming from? Are doctors creating it? Is that something you're providing?
Yeah, one of the issues early on is I did not want to have to produce my own content because it's laborious and it's very expensive. It's actually the most expensive part of the entire development process. So I was fortunate enough to find a company based out of Boston called preop.com that's been in the business for 18 years. And they've been producing high quality medical education videos and basically selling it to hospitals they create a YouTube channel for them and put it on the hospital website, and they don't get watched. And so patients just don't do that. They don't go Googling hospital websites to find that information. However, they do have over 3 million views a month on YouTube, with people just looking on YouTube for that content. The problem is, from a healthcare standpoint, you can't track that. You don't know what people are watching. And so basically they've been looking for a partner to help provide the system, the platform to allow tracking and logging of that data that the hospitals can use for reimbursement purposes and also for quality measures. So basically I reached out to them. This is actually also a lesson that I think one of the most powerful lessons that I could convey to anyone in a startup. I called a variety of companies that I saw actually online. I saw snippets of their content and figured, well, I better call them. And none of them answered except for this guy. John called the first ring and said, "Hi, can I help you?" So I actually got through to a person. And we started talking and we hit it off. And we signed non-disclosure agreements, and we saw that we were on the same wavelength. So basically that content has been produced over the last 18 years, some of it more current than other videos. They're about 8 to 10 minutes, and they've all been vetted by physicians. They go through a very rigorous process. It's actually pretty interesting. What they do is they have a editorial staff who are retired physicians and nurses who help write the script. It's run through a federal government algorithm called the PEMAT-AV. So whenever the federal government creates a document, like, for example, a new instruction manual for a weapon, the Department of Defense, it has to be run through this algorithm to make sure that it's understandable and actionable by everyone with great education or higher. So we run all of that content through until it gets 100%. And then once we have that script, it goes to professional medical illustrators out of Harvard and MIT, Tufts, so the Boston teaching hospitals. And they actually do the illustrations for us, for the videos, for John's team. And he's coordinating, he's a producer, so he's coordinating the whole process. And then of course, the cool thing is the physicians get to be involved. So when we update it, like for the urology stuff, I was involved in it. Gynecology, we had a very well-regarded gynecologist look at all of that and make sure they were comfortable with it. Orthopedics, podiatry, ophthalmology, all of that. We get to involve the healthcare professionals in the decision-making process. And I think that's gratifying to them, and part of the reason it's been so well supported by the healthcare team. But also it's a different process from the way the EHR companies have worked, where there have been no physician input or nurse input into the workflow or the content.
Doesn't that blow your mind that
Yeah.
you wrote an entire healthcare record system and didn't talk to people?
Yeah, it is amazing.
And your school 101, talk to your customers.
So,
Question? Yeah?
You mentioned the insurance, malpractice insurance
Yes.
industry, what's the status of that? Is that possible still,
Oh.
a selling point?
So we presented this to MMIC/Constellation Mutual, which is the largest malpractice carrier in the United States. And we were endorsed about 3 months ago. We have an endorsement on our website, and we sent it an offer marketing material. Their CEO and chief medical officer reviewed it. We presented our study results to them, our pilot study. And they said they think this is a great tool. And so we're kind of in the process now of negotiating what type of relationship this endorsement means. Does it mean that they provide it free to physicians? They have, most of these insurance companies now, in order to make money, also have a software reselling division, a subsidiary. And so we think there may be a space for us there. But it's an ongoing talk. The malpractice carriers, insurance companies in general, are very conservative. And so actually to get an endorsement, this is the first time they've endorsed a product. For us, it was a big deal. So we'll have to see how it progresses from the standpoint of reimbursement to physicians for using this. Also, I did present it to CRICO, which is Harvard's self-funded insurance carrier. Very positive feedback from them. And then, of course, their statement is, well, we don't endorse anything, but this is great. If anyone needs a reference, we'll tell them we looked at it, that type of a thing. We think down the road that's definitely a possibility.
Do physicians pay for their own malpractice insurance, or do the institutions pay for it?
Well, it depends. So larger institutions, for example, CHI, which owns Mercy Hospital here in town, that's based out of Denver, and they're self-funded. They're so big that they have their own, they've created their own malpractice fund. Mayo Clinic, Harvard, that's CRICO, is actually Harvard's self-funded insurance carrier. But individual physicians in their multi-specialty groups, like the Iowa Clinic, we all pay for that individually, and it's quite expensive. The thing is, it varies from state to state. It's a complicated concept. If there's no competition, it's not that complicated. I guess if there's no competition, they charge you a very high rate.
Yes.
So, for example, in Iowa, gynecologists pay an average of $118,000 a year in malpractice insurance. It'll be obstetricians, gynecologists. Neurosurgeons about $138,000 a year. So, there's a lot. We've done some number crunching, and if we can offer a 2% discount, it'll pay for the licenses. So that's what we're going for. We're not looking for, let's write off half of what you're charging. Hey, give us 2%, and you're going to see a big return on your investment and the decrease, fewer malpractice suits, et cetera.
One of the things I learned with working with John is a lot of this there's malpractice where something actually happened really bad, and there's more of the you didn't tell me something.
That's right.
I came out and now I look like this, you didn't tell me. I don't remember ever hearing that. Sometimes innocently, sometimes they just don't remember. And it's that side of it, to me, that's so interesting to say, hey, look, I really did read it. The records are right there, I read it, my son read it, my wife read it. No lawyer's going to convince me that I've got a case and I should take it forward for half the fee.
Yeah.
So there's the worst of the worst is a different thing.
That's a different thing.
That's a
right.
different thing. But there's a lot of things in the malpractice world, not just in medicine, many forms of malpractice. I had to carry insurance for errors and omissions. There's stuff over there where someone just decides to take a shot at you. And if you don't have it documented, it's going to tie your lose.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
But who pays the licenses, the individual doctors or the?
Well, the current model-
To the patient.
No, it doesn't get passed on to the patient. Currently, it's the individual physicians who pay a license. And our price is actually very reasonable. It's less than the reimbursement for a single new patient, Medicare new patient. So the return on investment in some of our calculations could be as high as 40 to 1, based on decreased readmissions, time savings, all of those things.
well, it helps to know that a lot of you are paid by the service provided, not by the hour.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
So if you get more billable hours, in essence, you can economically say I get to bill more time.
That's right.
And I think that's why it's not getting passed through just to say, okay, this patient, you get to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Are you still practicing physician?
No, actually in April of this year, I suspended my practice. It was crazy. My wife's here, she can tell you the hours I was working. I mean, every spare moment when I got home from work, I was on the computer sending emails. In my lunch hour, I'd run out to the developers to work with them and then back seeing patients, and I missed important phone calls because I just, when it came to prioritizing, I had a sick patient, or I got a phone call from Hitachi Aloka, wanting to speak to me. I'm like, I gotta go see the patient, I'm sorry. So it just got to the point I couldn't do it.
Well, I think your investors would have done that. So
That's the other thing, yeah, the investors would have demanded that I focus on this. And this is a big enough concept, and I think the potential is great enough that it's worthy of my full attention.
At what point did you add your finance people?
My CFO?
Finance people.
Well, actually, right from the beginning, really, LWBJ helped me raise the funds, and so they have financial analysts and corporate structure experts, and so they were involved right from the beginning. I sort of, once Mike was felt that he had, we reached the limit of what he could help me with, I went over to LWBJ.
And that was and just for those who don't know, there's been a couple of divisions. There's one called capital advisors that really do help people raise capital. And then they have their traditional
Accounting.
financial
Yeah.
audit, et cetera. And it crosses lines, obviously. But again, I think for any first-time entrepreneur raising a lot of money, and John had raised a significant amount of money, those things have to be done correctly, or it can cost you, the entrepreneur, dramatic amounts of money to do it wrong the first time.
Yeah.
And so it can be very beneficial to have help. You don't have to have it. A lot of people go out and raise on their own, but it is a minefield that you can make a lot of mistakes in. And he was practicing full-time as a doctor at the same time, so it really wasn't like he had all this extra time to read all the books.
That's
and,
right.
Study all, it just wasn't viable. So. Yeah.
More general question, how do you make decisions?
Boy, that's a tough one. Just totally from the gut. No. I'm deliberate. I'm someone who basically looks at the pros and cons of every situation, puts them into a column, and then basically weighs the two sides. And if I see that there's going to be more benefit than detriment to a decision or direction, that's where I go. I tend to be, I think I'm a principled individual. So personal integrity is important. If it does mean taking advantage of someone, maybe there's some benefit to it, I won't do it, sometimes to my detriment. But I think overall it's paid off, and I think, quite honestly, that's one of the ways I was able to raise the funds I was for this round. Basically, almost all the funds came from friends and family, colleagues. And I think they knew that I was honest and hardworking and diligent, and I would do what I, at least to the best of my ability, said that I was going to do.
How do you, just a follow-up question, are you engaging board of directors in an active way in shaping that decision, and how's that playing out?
Yeah, actually, Sheldon Oringer and Tej Devon have come on the board of directors. One of my friends, Marty Vanderkloog at Workiva, who's also given me a lot of really good advice, is also on the board of directors. And then we've got another from one of the large investors, the really only institutional investor came in, wanted to see, and they had some very useful experience and connections, so it was worth doing that. But yeah, they're very involved. And I think one of the other keys is good communication between the investors and the team. So everyone, there's a constant stream of emails and phone calls of people talking, including my advisors like Sheldon and Tej. I mean, we talk usually several times daily about what's going on and bounce it off each other. And so yeah, it's very important to have those resources.
I think it's something if you can build that strong board with a lot of the skills you don't have. And you look at yourself and go, what am I good at? What am I really honestly good at? Okay, don't put any of those people on the board. Go find people that are really good at the stuff that you really aren't very good at. I mean, you had never had to go do large scale selling.
That's right.
And Sheldon's back, I know Sheldon very well. Sheldon's background is very much in the sales space, sales and ops. And so, and building up the software company and making it run day to day is something you hadn't done before. That's where she had a lot of background. So you think about that as you're going into this, you really want to identify those 3 or 4 key weak points of your own. Fully engage your weaknesses. Okay, I need to find people just really, really good that I can trust to be around me. Hopefully they've been there before. What's next? Where are you guys going next? What do you think?
Yeah, so we've had a very active schedule with trade shows. going to the urology meetings. One of our investors is a podiatrist, and this, you wouldn't believe it, but actually things like podiatry and orthopedics are very high risk for liability, and there's not resources. There aren't the resources that you think there would be. So we're moving into that area. We've actually got meetings scheduled with some very large organizations coming up in the next few weeks, which are very exciting. We finally got those meetings and finally got those committees together to meet with us, but they could be game changing. Of course, we don't expect that for another year because it'll take them 3 months to get the next meeting and the next meeting after that. So
As long as they keep moving forward.
that's right, and there's forward movement.
Other questions out there? Somebody,
It's-
Another one. How close are you then to kind of satisfying those prerequisites the big guys have to take a look? Are you a year out? 2 years?
It could change. It could change next week. But yeah, I would say probably a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 to 18 months.
I think I just want to see a number of people
Yep.
actually using traction. There's no substitute for having 1,000 users, right? Not in a system. There's just-
That's right. That's right. That's
I
they
think
need to. Yeah, you can demonstrate scale and
repetition.
repetition.
Yeah, so you think about the simple metrics of how many times was this used with a patient, and how many times did the patient use it beforehand and afterwards, and you can collect a lot of data as early as possible. And so if you said, I have 500 uses, that might not sound great, but if you said, I have 500 users and they use it in this manner, and it's predictably moving the same way every time, and that shows a result that can drive liability lower, you're interesting to that company earlier. So you have to, something you can think about in that first year is, without going metrics crazy, and Levi will tell you about metrics crazy programs where people want to track everything. The things that would move an investor to put more money in your company, would move someone to buy your company if that's what you want, or would motivate a study, provide data to a study that was, an impartial study that says, no, this is on actual data, not on suppositions. So those are kinds of things you can do for your company. Any other advice you have for other entrepreneurs? You've had a hell of a run in a very short amount of time.
Well, I think you need to definitely research what you're getting into before you do it. Make sure that it's you're serious and that it's actually a good idea. But then once I think you've made that commitment, once you've done that research, you need to commit to it. You need to work. I mean, you just put all that energy into it. I don't know what else I can say other than that. I mean, I did my due diligence, and then when I saw that this was a niche that needed to be filled, and I was getting a lot of positive feedback from people I'd spoken to, sort of my informal focus groups, I knew I needed to just move on it.
Well, I'm going to say I work with you very early on. Not all my clients work as hard as you do. You work pretty hard.
Thank you.
really do. Any other questions?
How many months were you in before you jumped ship from your practice?
Well, let's see. Company started October 14th, so it was about 18 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you did a
so it was
lot
doing-
of work before you ever left this practice.
Yeah. That was actually important. That was I sort of had an unfair advantage, I think, versus other companies that have tried to do anything even remotely like this, in that I was actively practicing. So I was with physicians and patients, and I would actually get to say, I wouldn't have to wait for a survey to come back. I would say, what did you think about that? I wouldn't tell them that I'd done it. What did you think about that? Oh, I would do this or that. Okay, good to know.
So part of your pilot was your word.
Yes, now my data didn't count any of the results, we excluded all of that, but it was a good opportunity actually to just interact with people and find out what they really wanted. It's kind of like a mole, kind of like
I
a.
made the comment that there's these CHR companies building these systems that no doctor or so works in them. And having written software, my first software career was writing software for blue collar workers. And so people, and this was in the 80s, that had 6th grade educations. And you've got to understand that. So I think a big advantage he brought was simply that he was using his own product from day one.
That's right.
And you don't tend to just like your own stuff. You're pretty critical on your own stuff, actually. So it does give you a big advantage. So where sometimes you say, well, I really need to have the developer be the core person. The development's important, but like you said, the content's actually more important in a lot of ways than the development. Because that's what's making it work. Dave?
What role do the health insurance companies that provide reimbursement for these procedures play in the whole sales process or education process?
Well, there's potential. We were in very early discussions about possibly having, some of the healthcare insurance companies pay for this, because there's definitely some efficiency created on their side. Decreased readmissions means there's less cost for them. So that's early. Again, what they're looking for, again, are large-scale data. And so the best place to get that, fortunately or unfortunately, is from academic centers who are very attuned, or an institution like Broadlawn, for example, a county hospital that operates on the margins. So these are people that we're talking to. Unfortunately, they're also very slow-moving. So that's part of the frustration, the people that really can provide that data, that can get the insurance companies excited about it. They're interested too, but it just takes them a long time to make a decision.
But I would say, one of the things I have another client that works with Broadmounts as well, and places like that are trying to make their staff more efficient. And I don't mean make them work harder, more hours. I'm saying get rid of the wasted time. Because if you're, in this other example, doctors were actually getting in cars, driving places only to find out the patient didn't show up and drive back.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of things nobody wants that in the system. There's no reason they're going to change that stuff. So I think the motivation's there, but you've got to find, like you did, something that actually really saves people's time that are in the critical path of healthcare.
Yeah.
Because then you don't need more people. You're not, it's already hard to get enough doctors and nurses. So you're helping that challenge as well. Any other questions? Thank you for all your questions.
Yes, thank you.
But with that, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming by.